And here we go. We have liftoff. Propulsion continues to be normal.
RCPA chamber pressure looks good.
Following up. Roger, with planet.
Water towers, fly! Yes!
Tango down to nominal.
Flight downside SPD off. Bring in SPD off. It's orange!
145! Oh my god! Oh my god!
Decollage.
Look at this!
Put that in the big bag,
343 unfolds to go.
Indeed.
We rise together, back to the moon and beyond.
This methane would be igniting in the flare, correct?
Yikes. You good? Sure. We don't need any more of these.
Well, we're back again. What a surprise. It doesn't seem that long ago, literally weeks ago, that we had the launch of Flight 6, and now we're going to have a static fire test for Booster 14 ahead of Flight 7, which is looking pretty good for January, isn't it? So that's a good sign. This is a sign of the future as well. We're going to expect lots of launches, lots of preparations for the next launch, and just go on from there, because that's what SpaceX want to do. So, as you'd expect, we've gone live commentary for the static fire test of Booster 14, which is expected pretty soon. We're going to get a timeline because we have the expert words of Alex with us. Hello, Alex.
Hello. Yeah, I'm ready for potential static fire today.
That camera's playing up. Let's give it. Jay's in the background. I'm going to thank Jay because it's reminded by Jay, literally with the camera going a bit wonky there, to give it a slap and get it better, because that's a nice close-up camera. I'm sure it's just the internet or something technical which I don't know about. Also joining us is Adrian. Hello, Adrian.
Hello, everybody. Kind of early start from SpaceX here this morning. Bit of unexpected pace. I'm sure Alex will talk about that a bit here. But yeah, it looks like we are getting a frosty booster not that far away from now.
You know the routine by now. If you've got any questions, do want a spaceflight in chat, followed by your question, and then we'll try and get it into the panel, and we'll answer as many questions as possible. It doesn't have to be a super chat. Doesn't have to be a super chat. A lot of people on YouTube think that's the only people on all streams, you know, on all subject matters, that only answer the super chat ones. No, we answer all the good questions, and that's the way we do it. If you do it at NASASpaceflight, it gets put into a panel with no subjugation. It just says, well, there's a question here, and we'll take it, and we'll answer it. It's a long stream, probably, so we'll get lots of questions answered, all being well. But let's start with Alex, with the potential of telling us exactly to the second when this will static fire, Alex.
No, I cannot get that close. But you know, today it's been a bit weird. This sequence, you know the drill if you've been around. But let's sort of recap what they do for this static fire. So they condition the tank farm, right? And we see the Pope vent sort of in the middle of that conditioning of the tank farm. That Pope vent usually, for a full stack test, we will see sort of 4 hours between the Pope vent starting and then a potential T0, right? For when the booster is alone, though, there's change in the timeline because you don't need to fill the ship, and you have a lot less of the tank farm to actually activate and everything. So the bottom line is, on Saturday, when they did the spin prime test, they did a spin prime test of the engines, right? And they fully loaded the booster liquid oxygen tank and a little bit of the methane tank, sort of as if they were doing the static fire, but it was actually a spin prime and nothing was really set up for a static fire. We'll talk about that as well. Why we know it is a static fire and why there are many other indications that is a static fire today. And sort of the time between the Pope vent and the OLM vent, because that's the other thing that needs to be conditioned for the test, it's a lot shorter today. So it caught us a bit by surprise, but hey, we're live now. And if the timeline between the OLM vent starting and shutting down is the same as on Saturday's test, then we should see that OLM vent stopping in about 3 minutes from now. That OLM vent is the conditioning of the lines between the tank farm and the launch mount. So that is very essential because there's a lot of cryogenics that need to be loaded on the booster, right? And so those transfer lines need to be conditioned and cool down ahead of the propellant load sequence. One thing that I could say though, I'm seeing the subcoolers on the methane side. You know the drill, the methane side always start first. And those subcoolers already indicate that fuel load is underway. And I'm starting to see discoloration.
Yeah, I see it.
Discoloration on that methane tank. So we perhaps will going to see that frost very soon on the methane tank.
There it is. You can see it already. Like, so you see a slight discoloration on the methane tank. The methane tank is the upper tank here, right? And at the bottom of that discoloration, you can see, I think, a hint of white. But yeah, this discoloration confirms we are into methane load.
Very good. I am watching the clock for 9:40 a.m. because I had Alex say 3 minutes, and Alex has got a very good habit of being bang on the dot. And I think even a few minutes either side would be amazing, to be fair. But yeah, we're getting this is not hanging around. We noticed this with the spin prime. I completely forgot what the name of the thing was there. The spin prime test, where not only did they get that done in no time at all, but they also went over the top and did a little bit of a tanking test before the spin prime because they filled it up a lot more than they usually do, didn't they, Alex?
Yeah, it seems like they hit two birds with one stone, right? And so they did 2 tests at the same time. They did a tanking test, and then they did the spin prime. I guess it makes sense. I think that's the oil and vent stopping. That's a minute earlier than I expected. But hey, within margin. When I say, oh, in 3 minutes, it's a bit minute up and down. But there you have it. Oil and vent stopped. Now we have also liquid oxygen load onto the booster. And if all of the timelines are the same, than Saturday's test, we might see a test maybe 10:15, 10:20 a.m. Central. We'll see.
Wow.
You could see the instant forming of some discoloration on the LOX tank the moment the OLM vent stopped. Because the first moment is the most significant one because it instantly pushes, like, as we understand it, as the moment that vent stops, it's kind of like a T-flip. So basically, the flow is no longer going down that vent. It's now going into the booster. And there was like a significant change in discoloration in the first moment. But the frost ring will start to take a moment to appear because there's the frost section at the bottom of this LOX tank that needs to fill up first. And once that reaches the outer tank wall, that's when we will see like the true discoloration on the LOX tank. But they are going fast here soon.
And because it's going fast, I fully expect and I fully welcome lots of interruptions because I'm like, I'll go on for a bit and sometimes I'll miss what's going on screen. So please interrupt me if needed. But I just start with Adrian on the stream, and there's 3,500 already in. We might do a little quick update because a lot of people are asking, where's my patch 6? Flight 6 patch. Right, remember it was pre-order, but we are expecting it could be in the warehouse, which is the point where it starts shipping out. And they literally ship them all out within a day or so. Go on.
Yeah, let me just to quickly say, we have the confirmation that they have been shipped from the production facility to the warehouse. We are basically awaiting final confirmation that they are in the warehouse and are processed. Once that has happened, we expect them to ship out basically in the same day or two. So we know the package is on the way. I want to issue caution here because I always want to make that clear. We are in December. December is a historically and always busy month for carriers. So if it takes a day longer until you get a shipping confirmation, that could also be affected by the fact that we are in December. And December is, as you know, with Black Friday just passed and everything. That's not the thing that NSF is causing. That's a thing that the global retail market is causing. So it's something we just abide to as everybody else. So we expect chip patches to ship hopefully in a matter of this week.
Right. The fun thing is, I've had at least one person who thinks I actually personally deliver the packages. I'm not even joking. Because they said that I need to, when I arrive, I need to ring on their door because they might work in the back garden. I thought that was pretty hilarious. We are at the mercy of actual big company carriers who then ship the products to the 99% of the time it works completely fine. But if you have any issues with things like that, just send a message to the store team because I'll be answering it. There we go. So be kind, be nice. Most people, I must admit, most people are very nice when I reply to them on emails, which is really kind of like quite nice, actually, I must admit. But yeah, we will look after you, so don't worry about that. It's the mercy of online internet shopping, but most of the time it works very well. And the patch 6 people are asking, where's my patch? And they forgot it's pre-order. It's fine. It's pre-order. It's very close. It's very, very close. Right, back to the booster.
Yep. And just to tie that in, that comes with the insane SpaceX pace, Chris, because we are no longer able to have months to get this patch ready because they're going so fast. And this is right now is a test that shows that, because honestly, launching in January seems like yeah, of course they will launch in January. It would be a shock if they don't.
Oh, Frost.
Yep. Frost on the launch tank.
Alex, I got to do it, Alex. That's my Monday complete. That's it. All right. Bye, everyone. Thanks for joining. I'm going to leave now because I've done what I wanted to do.
But yeah, it's just a matter of pace. I mean, you would be crazy at this point to predict that the launch would be any later than January.
Yeah. I mean, it will get to the point where we can't do patches for every single launch. It's going to get silly because that'll be just ridiculous. So what we'll do is we'll probably move them to milestones, which is ironically where we are right now. Let's face it, we've got Flight 8 is going to be a milestone by the look of things if they catch the ship. But then we'll start doing like proper milestone. We can't do every single patch. We won't be like, oh, flight patch 133 coming out soon and pre-order. I'm like, well, we're going to run out of designs for anything. So yeah. Anyway, this is going very well. This is on track. What did you say? 20 minutes past 10 potentially for a static fire test, Alex?
Yeah, it sort of depends, right? Might be 15, might be 20. One of the indicators that we'll see is when the OLM vent returns. Is that right now? So the whole deal with the OLM vent is that is the OLM vent, when it vents, that is gaseous oxygen that is coming out of the vent. So you have those two transfer lines. You can kind of see them there underneath of the launch mount. They are white, right? Because right now they are filled with liquid nitrogen, liquid oxygen, and liquid methane. Excuse me. And the top one is for liquid methane, and that has a return line on the other side, and it goes back to the tank farm. Because once you cool down the line, the liquid itself warms up and it goes into gaseous mode, and so you have to return that gas for the methane. You don't want to vent that out, but the oxygen, you can vent it, right? And so for the oxygen, you have that OLM vent, and that's what you see when they are venting that. So if they close the vent because they are starting to load propellant, right, you don't see the vent anymore. That's good. But when they stop the fueling, when they stop loading liquid oxygen, that OLM vent reappears again, and so that'll give us the clue that the propellant load has stopped. Also, the subcoolers on the methane side will also give us a clue because they're going to stop essentially. We should see as well engine chill. So that's going to be one of these pipes, the one that goes sort of, you have those two wide ones, right? There's one that goes down from it. That's the one for the engine chill reclamation, essentially. And so that's going to get frosty as well once engine chill starts on the booster. And that'll be our clue that maybe within 20 minutes will be the static fire test. Because if you remember from full stack launches, engine chill starts at about T-minus 19 minutes and 40 seconds. So once we see that, we know that it's roughly 20 minutes. It's not right on the dot because, the behavior, we're seeing behaviors rather than, computer screens with full telemetry. But there you have it. Now also frost on the methane tank as well.
And it won't be that much more frost. Like there will be still a bit more methane load, but the methane load will be quite low for this test, probably, right? Because the easiest way to buy down risk and mitigate some of the risks that you have during such a test is to reduce the amount of explosives that are involved in this test. And of course, methane being involved in there, you can basically limit the methane load to a minimum that they need to fire all of these 33 engines and then just stop.
Yep. So the liquid oxygen will be fully loaded almost. It's usually like 95%. There's always like a little bit that they leave out. And then the methane side, it's usually like a quarter, more or less, like 25% or so. So it will not be fully loaded in that case.
Angry American brings up a nice little point. Just while we go, Adrian, I'm going to give you a little bit of time to find potentially questions from the panel because I know you've got the panel up and I don't.
Oh, I haven't.
While you're doing that, Angry American says 5,000 watching, only 737 likes. That's actually not too bad. But we always say, and you'll hear other YouTubers say it as well, give us a like. And people think, oh, why is that? You get paid for that? No, there's no money in that. It's about really promoting the stream because you know what it's like on YouTube and other social medias these days. There's lots of scam channels and what have you, and they use automated bot likes, which means they're higher in the search. So if some young kid might be searching for a Starship test, they may get a crypto scam channel. So that's why we always kind of push it a little bit now, where if you give it a like on a stream, we're fighting against that. So it takes you 1 second to do. We don't get any more money from it, but it just helps you put the right subject matter that we're covering properly higher in the Google or the YouTube search engine rankings. So that's a little technical insight to why people say that. It's an important thing. Thank you. Adrian, questions?
Absolutely. So this is, of course, the first stage of the next Starship flight. And Alex, this one is certainly going to you. Levana's asking, when do you expect Ship 33 static fire and rollout?
I believe we have a closure for tomorrow, maybe tonight. I will have to actually pull up the Cameron County website. Yeah, it says December 9th, but there was no rollout today. So, of course, it is not today. But there's an alternative on the 10th. I'm trying to look it up because the documents are usually better than the table. There we go, here. Yeah, it says on Highway 4 from factory to in blank. So we thought that was going to be the one to roll out Ship 33 from the Mega Bay 2 to the Massey outpost, right? For static fire test. So I don't know. I guess we'll just wait and see, right? Just tune into Starbase Live and we'll see when it rolls out. Probably later this week we might see that, and then a static fire shortly after. We'll see.
Yeah, at least it seems to me that SpaceX has the absolute desire to make sure that that both vehicles are fully checked out and tested before Christmas. Like, that feels very much like their desire at this point, right, Chris? And to me, it feels like they might just maybe even get a full stack before the end of the year.
Yeah, and I think SpaceX will want to do that because they'll like the idea of saying this is how fast we can turn around between flights and be ready from a launch vehicle readiness standpoint. And they can use the line again, kind of, for this one, pending regulatory approval. And that just puts the pressure back on because it's a new era politically. I don't know how much it'll affect the regulatory approval process, but it's something they want to try and streamline somewhat. And there have been noises. I've seen some random tweets which relate to that. So the potential there is saying, look, this is how fast we can go. Can you keep up with us now as far as the regulatory approval? And, you know, whatever is involved in that, if it means more launches, then I'm all for it.
Absolutely. Let me thank some people here who are helping us to keep the machine of coverage running. Starting with Helga Comfort with the €25 super chat, saying thanks you guys for your great work. That's everything, not even a question, everything, just a nice thank you. Thank you so much, Helga. And then we also have Astro95 Media with a $10 super chat saying, just popping in to say, hey, hoping to be there in January. We'll see. Cheers. Yeah, I mean...
Hi, Nathan.
There you go.
Sorry, Adrian. Yeah, that's Nathan Moller, Max Q, Astro95 guys, the team that were our first ever on-site photography during the space shuttle coverage.
It's crazy how long this all has been going.
Yeah.
It's absolutely.
I had hair when we started this. No, I'm joking.
Yeah, I will not go down this rabbit hole. Next question here, and this is one certainly for Alex. Stephen Lewis here is wondering, how do they keep internal PSI regulated in the booster tanks? When they start loading logs or CH4, doesn't the inside air shrink with the sudden cold?
Well, it's not that it suddenly cools down. What they tend to do is, you know, the first few minutes it's like a slow fill, right? They just load very, very little pressure like the flow of liquid oxygen and liquid methane is very low, right? And then what they do is they pass into fast fill, and so those very few minutes at the beginning that allows the thermals to transfer that I guess the other way around, the heat to dissipate and everything and cool down across the bottom of the tank. And as they keep loading, that gives the rest of the tank time to be able to do that. But I will not be concerned about the air cooling down, but more about the volume for that air disappearing. Because if you think about it, as they keep loading this booster, you can see there that line still rising. As that line rises, you have fewer volume left over, right? Like the amount of volume that you have on the tank is lower and lower. And so what happens, if you know a bit of basic physics, is that if you compress a gas and you keep it you keep that volume down, then what that means is you essentially have more pressure inside of the tank. And so you need to release that pressure. And so as we continue to see this propellant load continuing, essentially, we'll see that venting occur from time to time from the tank. So if you see some venting that is not a depressed vent of when they abort or something like that, that is not the case. That is just, maintaining the pressures on the tanks. And as I was saying, Stephen, that can also be useful for when they start the loading as well. But I will not be too concerned about that because the volume of gas inside before a propellant load starts, it's a lot, right? And so you can think of that somewhat sort of like a sink of heat, a heat sink kind of thing. So a trickle of liquid oxygen at the bottom, of liquid methane at the bottom of the tank, it's very little compared to the amount of gas that you have inside. I will be more worried again of once that fluid starts going up in the tank, right? And you have fewer and fewer volume for that gas, then that's a more important concern.
There you go. That's why I love throwing Alex these questions. I learned something as well. Craig here with a storm message. Chris, you will love this. NSF, the new bottleneck. I'm kidding. You're all awesome and love watching your coverage. P.S. My shipping info is correct. I checked.
Oh yeah, that's another thing to also make sure you do when you get something from the store. A lot of people, it's completely accidental. They have iPhones and auto address things, and sometimes the billing address is not the same as your postal address. So just double check that before you hit order on it, because sometimes your browser or your phone will auto fill it, and it might not be the right one. So just make sure the address is correct, because you know the way the automated systems work, it's very challenging to change it once it's been put through. So just a little safety check there, just to check your address is correct, your shipping address, that is.
Absolutely, and thank you so much for that support. This is an interesting question. Throwing this to Chris first. AstroDev is wondering, do you think they will catch the booster on Flight 8 or only catch the ship?
No, I think they'll go for both. Because let's face it, the ship's not going to come back for several hours, if not multiple hours. So they've got the time, especially if they get a good catch on Flight 7, that they can timeline what else they've done to the chopsticks to safe the booster and bring it down, put it on a transport stand, and then put the sticks back up, release the sticks, and send them back up to the top for the catch of the ship. And what an iconic view that will be if the ship comes back and they're catching it with the booster in view at the same time. That'd be something else. I mean, that will be flex. I do like the question, though, because there is a potential of just keeping the entire pad clear for the ship catch. Because if they lose the ship, they might take the booster out as well. Whatever, I don't know if that's a big consideration for them. But, yeah, I personally would hope, and I expect, that they will go for both.
Alex, what's your thought on this?
I don't think they need to do... I don't think they need to forgo the catch of the booster. They'll just probably hang around in orbit for a few orbits and then do the catch of the ship if needed. We've heard recently, and even a few months ago, from the same person as well, from Amit at NASA on the Artemis conference the other day. Remember, he said that this new block of ships are able to stay in orbit for longer, just because of their design. And so and like they are designed to be long endurance ships. And so if you think about it, if they can stay for a few or like maybe a day or so, that's all it takes for the booster to be saved, put back on a transport stand, just put it to the side of the launch site. Don't even need to roll it back to the production stage. Just put it on the side and catch the ship.
Absolutely, and I mean, just to bring this a little bit of additional insight here, we have to think about, because what people have to think about here is the fact that there will be a bit of a like orbit translation kind of, because you cannot deorbit with every single turnaround of the Earth and reach Boca Chica, because the Earth turns around that. So basically, they will have to have a path again that allows them, with enough cross range and everything, to get to the path again. I think the assumption is there might be a potential that they do it in the first circulation around first, and then it takes like a day, right, Alex, before they would align again with Boca.
Yeah, it sort of depends as well on what orbital inclination. One thing that I've been trying for a bit to do is try to simulate the orbital ground track for a launch into a 32-degree inclination orbit, because that will be when I expect them to, the shell, the inclination to which they're going to be launching Starlink satellites. I do think there's a good chance that if they go into an orbit, they might try to sneak some Starlinks inside, because why not? You're already in orbit, just deploy them.
Absolutely. At some point they have to, right? What's a rocket that cannot launch payloads, right? So at some point they have to do it. Looking good here on the load here. They're getting around this very fast. Like 20 minutes potentially to go until the static.
While we are in this view, I'm just seeing right now. There you have it on the Deluge tank farm.
Yep.
You see a vent there. That is the engine chill vent. So we are about 20 minutes away from that static fire test, because usually that's and then you see the line that I said it's sort of vertical, right, across the two transfer lines. That is now frosty as well. So that is indication that the engine chill is underway on those 33 Raptor engines on booster 14.
You can also see the engine puffs. While we're on this shot, sometimes you see some puffs from the engines, I think, as they are getting colder. So it's getting there. It's kind of interesting that we have the knowledge about time. For example, the knowledge we have is that the engine chill got longer on Raptor, because we know it was initially 13 minutes, and now it's 20. Like, we know they extended the engine chill over time, which is it's a funny piece of knowledge that we have to have and to discuss. So yeah, always quite interesting.
So the next step will be that oil and vent coming back. That'll be the indication that the propellant load has stopped on booster 14.
Yeah, methane looks to be almost as we would expect it, right? Like,
yeah, maybe a little bit more. I think the subcoolers might still be running. It's hard to see because today the wind is blowing to the north, and so it's covering all of the tank farm activity.
This is like the worst direction usually. When we get with wind. I feel like everything else is better than this, because this results in the venting kind of obscuring the tank farm. So
yeah,
not really helpful. Thank you for that, wind. Chris, a question here for you. Willie is wondering when we will see Raptor V3.
Another year yet.
Another year.
I'm going to start talking if I'm not going to be interrupted. About another year yet, I think, because they're still testing at McGregor and there's still quite a lot of ships lined up. It depends on how many flights they get in next year, then they might bring it in midway through the year. But I think let's not get too carried away just yet. Raptor 2 is working very well.
Yeah, I mean, remember that first flight when we all thought, oh, Raptor looks so sketchy, and since then they have just nailed it. It's
you can see there that return line for the methane.
Oh yeah,
where it says historical to the left, that line that comes from the right and then down the leg. But yeah, I saw somebody in chat, wondering why does this booster has, Raptor 2, like they have the new Raptor. Why don't they? And the simple reason is because Raptor 3 is still under development, right? Like they need to build up testing time, right? Even Ship 33, which is a new version of the ship that eventually will have Raptor 3. The first few ships looks like they're putting Raptor 2s on them. And, that's totally fair, right? They have plenty of experience flying the Raptor 2. It might not be as powerful, it might not be as new, but, you cannot argue with heritage, I guess.
Absolutely. And there is this slight caveat of Raptor 2 doesn't equal Raptor 2, right? Because we have, for example, seen a return of a spin prime test on this vehicle, which made some of us look at this a bit like suspicious, that we might look at Raptor 2.2, Raptor 2.5 here on this vehicle, and they have changed potentially something. It's always hard, and sometimes they just confirm that when they are moving into flight. But let's say some people are a bit suspicious of the engines that are installed on this booster.
Yeah, one of the things that we at least have been able to see way in the past, even with Raptor 1, Raptor 1 was on Starhopper, and it was also on SM-15. I can already tell you SM-15 did not carry the same type of Raptor 1 that Starhopper had. Not a chance, right? Raptor 1 went through many iterations, right? Even SM-15 carried this sort of, what we dubbed Raptor 1.5, because it had like a more slimmed down version of Raptor 1. It was not Raptor 2, but it was still very slimmed down. It was not a full Christmas tree as the early Raptor 1s were. But yeah, Raptor 1 went through many iterations. So of course Raptor 2 is going to go through many iterations. We also saw a spin prime test on booster 12. We did not see on booster 10 and booster 11, but we did see on booster 9. So I think every few boosters that might upgrade, they might be upgrading these Raptor 2 engines, which kind of sounds, very much like SpaceX, right?
Absolutely. I mean, the same goes for Merlin, right? Merlin is not Merlin. Like, they're still iterating Merlin. We know that from Elon Musk, that they're still even working on that engine sometimes and adjusting like the tiny little bit of things. So yeah. Let me thank some more people here, starting with Flawed Perspective, gifting 5 Red Team memberships. Thank you so much for that. And then we have Jack Oliver with the super chat saying, 6 months ago, I announced we're expecting. Crazy to think that I'll be father by this time this flight flies. Thanks, and I'm excited to share this with her. First off, congratulations and good luck for the final few months of that pregnancy. And then wishing you and your wife the best of luck. Rethat with gifting 5 Red Team memberships. Thank you so much for that. Mark G with becoming a PadRep member. Thank you. RC Horseman with the super chat saying, can I get Crispy delivered since Canada Post is on strike?
Yeah.
Okay. Chris is coming to Canada.
I've always wanted to visit Canada, so that's a good excuse.
Absolutely.
Might add a bit to the shipping cost.
I think it will increase them quite a bit. Absolutely. But we have a note about that, about the shipping strike in Canada. Sadly, we do not influence strike of post systems. Tommy D with a super chat saying, could they catch the ship with booster on OLM? The idea was to put the ship back on the booster load and go. So basically, the booster is still on the OLM and they catch the ship next to that.
I mean, the angle of the sticks could. I asked that question of Ryan ahead of the first catch, which was Flight 5. I fully assumed they were going to put it back on the Orbital Launch Mount, and Ryan goes, no, they're going to put it on the transport stand. And I did think, well, what they're going to do in the future when they would do eventually put them back on the Orbital Launch Mount, because they're going to do that rapid reusability, aren't they? So there must be a way of doing it where the sticks are at an angle, so it comes back down and is caught away from the booster that's on the orbital launch mount, and then it gets rotated across like we see during stacking. I mean, I'd be fascinated to know what Alex's opinion on that one is.
My thoughts about that are very mixed. So, on the one hand, what you can do to get around this is maybe like have a different tower to catch it, right? So you catch it on pad B, for example, instead of pad A. But then if you have another booster on pad B, then it's kind of like a bit of a pickle. A potential solution that I've not seen yet, around the internet, it's we think maybe with a new design of the flame trench, right, that they're gonna have the ULM lower down closer to the ground, right? Which means, in theory, the booster might sit lower than it is right now, which will mean that maybe the top will not be that. Like, what I'm suggesting is that maybe they could catch the ship with a booster on the OLM and still not get that roasted. I don't know. We'll see. Definitely a separate catch tower, or just, you have two launch towers you catch on the other while the other is launching. I think that will be potentially a solution there. And also the ships, you need to understand that most of the ships that are launched are probably going to be tankers. Those you could probably just put it back on the booster and load it and go. But if you have a payload instead, you have a payload that needs to be loaded, even Starlinks, right? You probably want to put apart that ship and just put another different ship on the booster. That's my take as well.
There we go. And apparently we're being notified that on this day 4 years ago, SN8 took flight.
Yep.
Wow.
So we are on an anniversary. 4 years ago.
Seems like
that hurts.
Like a breeze.
Yeah, that hurts. But yeah, apparently we are on an anniversary date here, and SpaceX likes to schedule these things on an anniversary. So, Alex, where are we? Is this the expected propellant load? Are they still loading? Are we still on track for 1020? What's going on?
Yeah, so you can see there, the liquid oxygen tank is probably like about 2/3 of the way, maybe even 3/4 of the way full right now. If all things are on track, we should be about 10 minutes away from that static fire test. And we know it is a static fire test because earlier today there was a PA announcement, and it said something along the lines of like, there's going to be a static fire, right? Clear the pad. There's a static fire test. I don't know the exact words, unfortunately, but the gist of it is that. And so we are right now still, under engine chill, that liquid oxygen load continuing. We've seen a little bit more methane loaded there onto the methane tank, but again, it will not rise all the way full. It's just about this, more or less, what you will see. And so, again, the next thing that we should see is the return of the OLM vent, and that'll be when the liquid oxygen load ends. And one trick, that frost is sort of our progress indicator. Once that frost reaches almost to the cowbell vents, that's more or less when we see that vent return, because that's usually the level that they fill that liquid oxygen tank. And so that should be the next thing that we should be looking out for. So if if we are answering a question or whatever and we see that OLM vent coming back, then that's our clue that we are like 2 minutes from that static fire test. So, yeah.
Absolutely. We are close here. And once they have wrapped up ground loading, we are just minutes away from a potential 33 engine static fire test of Booster 14. As I, for the 5th time in a row, almost said Booster 13. It's a thing. I always almost say the wrong booster. It's like when you're in school, you need like a few more months before you write the correct year after year change. That's me with boosters. So yeah, we are potentially 10 minutes away or so, and we expect a full static fire of 33 engines here.
I wonder if we will get the siren, because we do have people who may be able to hear it. It depends on where the siren's taking place, etc. But also, we didn't get another pressure notice. I don't think Mary got one for this one, which means might be a sign of the future where the cadence is picking up on testing. That becomes less of a thing. We have other ways of relying on when we can know when there's a static fire taking place. So it's not a big deal, but it's also quite interesting that they might not have the T-minus 10-minute siren anymore now.
Yeah, that's it really surprised us a bit, right? But when they announced over the PA that they go for a static fire today, so that's maybe there's a change of testing flow here, and they're adjusting something, and I mean it makes sense. So we will see what goes on there. Oh, that's an interesting one, Chris. Do we know when New Glenn will start static fire?
No, I'm hoping we'll get to see it potentially this week. I know that the interesting thing from David Limp is that they're looking for regulatory approval, not just for launch, but also for the static fire test. So that is probably, they're ready for it and just waiting for paperwork now, which could be related to the water deluge system, remember. It's not necessarily an FAA thing. He said regulatory approval could be anything. So hopefully this week.
Yep, and I can confirm that I have sent an email to inquire about potential things. We'll see. Alex, Travis is wondering, thoughts on the potential launch window for this? Working big seasonal hours right now and want to try and plan accordingly. So, do we expect same time of day?
I really don't know. They could just simply go back to the morning launch, right? It will be not ideal though, because we're starting to get into the winter, and that means not very great mornings in terms of lighting and whatnot. But yeah, I mean, I will hope it's another afternoon launch, because if they do again a splashdown in the Indian Ocean, as we think they might do again on Flight 7, then yeah, that will be cool to see it again in daylight.
Absolutely. Matthew here asking in the super chat, has there been shipping problems with Flight 6 patch? No, the Flight 6 patch is on the way from the factory to our warehouse, and we expect shipping to commence soon. So, any day now. Dino CR super chat saying, thoughts on boosters for Orbital Tank Farm? Let's not go back to the idea of using Starship kind of vehicles for the Orbital Tank Farm. That didn't work out great the first time.
They already tried that, and yeah.
The definition of been there, done that. Don't do that again, please. Just use normal Propellant tank. So
they're even scrapping the one at 39A. You'll see tomorrow we'll have KSC flyover coming out, and so you'll see a bunch of that progress.
Yep, absolutely. That's going to be an interesting one. That was a juicy flyover. So you might get some really interesting updates here. 5 minutes or so to go, maybe here. Propellant load is wrapping up here. You can see just, I think, 2 more rings on the LOX tank, potentially a bit less. And it's filling fast.
Yeah, just a few more minutes, and we'll wrap up that propellant load. It's got to see that oil and vent coming back.
And Chris, why do they load so much for just a short static fire attempt? Why not leave the LOX tank also almost empty?
That's a very good question. Let's ask Alex.
It's just to weight it down, so that they don't stress the hold down clamps. That's about 3,000 tons of liquid oxygen, just to put it in perspective. So when fully loaded, that thing is. Oh, look at that!
Oh, here we go. Oh,
yep,
coming back. So we are potentially within 2 minutes of that static fire test. We'll have to wait and see for the detonation suppression system, that mist of water and nitrogen spraying underneath of the engines, and then the deluge will come up, and then we'll have that static fire test. So we'll keep an eye on that.
It's what we call short sentence mode.
The timing could be very good because we've got a big special event, NSF on the ISS, not too long after this, so it's going to work out very well for the static fire and get it out of the way.
It would be really nice if SpaceX goes early for this one, because honestly, I want to see us you're talking with somebody on the ISS. Like,
Press the button, Elon. Press the button.
yeah, the big green static fire button. I always imagine mission control like that. I would request big buttons.
I would.
Yeah. You want to have like a giant button you can slam your whole hand on, right?
Yeah, one that says "Do not touch," which means you're just so tempted to press it.
I feel that very much. We are in a bit in a short sentence mode too. We will not go into like deep dive questions anymore because we might just be 90 or so seconds away from a potential static fire of booster 14, which will be signaled to us by the activation of the detonation suppression system that will start below that orbital launch mount. And then, of course, the deluge kicking into full gear. So watch for all of these small indicators that will signal that it's time. Tank farm now almost dying down here because nothing is needed anymore. And the booster is ready there. There we go. Oh, I think is that the vent on the right side? I always dead.
There we go. Yeah,
that
that's
means
40 seconds.
DSS. Yep, DSS should come up any second now. Watch below the legs of the OLM.
Takes a few seconds. There he is.
There it is. Next up will be the deluge, and after that, static fire. See you on the other side. And with that, I believe we have successful static fire, or at least it looks like static fire of booster 14. I could at least see 2 ignition sequences. Usually we get 3. We'll have to see in the replays if that was exactly 3. But that looked good. I like these views. That's a good sign. That's some depressing. And I at least saw 2 ignition sequences. Usually these static fires, correct me if I'm wrong, Alex, are 3 ignition sequences. They ignite in 3 barks.
Yeah, but the problem is that the third one is just 5 engines, so it's not a huge difference compared to the other, 28 engines that are already running by that time.
Yep, but from the duration and everything, I mean, we start to get a bit of a feeling for this, and everything looked good from what I could see.
Yeah,
it looked like a static fire.
It looked very nice, yeah.
Absolutely. I think Tris is probably doing some sort of tweet right now.
Yeah, I am. I'm busy. I got my Bandicam ready. I had a tweet written. I've got it out. So the tweet's out there. In fact, you know what? I haven't spam chat in a while. I'm going to spam chat because people may be from that notification or at least some other notification coming through and thinking, oh, what time do I rewind to? And you could do like 2 minutes or so, but let's spam this one. Here we go. Spam, spam, spam. I'm allowed to spam. I've got the power to spam. So there we go. If anyone's just turned up and missed it, that's a quick little clip of the static fire. It went very well. I must admit, I don't get nervous. I get nervous about cameras, but I don't get nervous about the boosters anymore. It all seems, and it's a horrible word to use in spaceflight, but it all feels slightly routine now, which is a great thing because it shows they've got a sequence, they've got a practice, they know exactly what to do. And it all seems to work very, very well. I mean, those of us, and I'm sure there's many in chat, in fact, chat, put your hand up if you remember the times of ruds and booms and splashes and collapses and test tanks going, woo, what have you. That was not long ago. And it's all proven to be very good data. We said at the time, these failures are good data to help them in the future. And look what's happening now.
I want to quote a certain Spanish person at the beginning of the stream, Chris, who said, static fire is probably at 1020 or so.
Oh, I know. I told you, Alex knows to the dot.
He was 1 minute off.
Wow.
And that was like over an hour away from the static. So, Alex, that was smooth.
I'm seeing some of the other views. I hope we get to those replays because there are very good views that we got here from that static. I know they are preparing those in the background.
Absolutely. Shoutouts to, I think, Gage and, of course, Jay, and behind the scenes here, making sure we got these cool switching during static fire and got really cool angles. That was really nice. And now, of course, SpaceX moves into detanking. Detanking sounds way more trivial than it is, right? Like, in theory, you're like, okay, yeah, you just have to empty the booster, but there's much more to detanking a rocket, Alex, than just getting everything out of there.
Yeah, you've got a lot of stuff that needs to be drained back, and one of the problems is that you don't have the same systems that you have for because when you load the booster, right, you are draining the tank farm ground tanks, right? Now what they're draining is the other way around. And so the other way around, there's not as much of a support hardware for the tanks on the booster in terms of keeping the pressures and whatnot. So the drain back is a lot slower than the load on the booster. So it'll take a bit of time. In fact, we may not see signs of defrost for at least 20 or 30 minutes from now. So but we know it is already under drain back because we see all of those signs on the tank farm of usually, when they do this drain back, we see those same, that same activity, right? And so, yeah.
Absolutely. It's, but usually when they start to detank right away and like depress right away, that is also another good sign. Like, historically, the worst thing that happens is like when they hold for a very long time and are unsure of what just happened. That's always the bad signs. But we are not getting any bad signs. Just to point this out again. Like right now, the duration looked good, the engines look good, everything looked as we expected a normal static fire. And yes, I agree with Chris, it kind of becomes routine, but I still get tense every time we are close to it. Because it's still a rocket booster, right? Like things can go wrong.
Yeah, that's why, especially mainly in the past, they had the overpressure notices to local people in Boca Chica Village, which is next to the production site down Highway 4, because that's the power of this thing. If one of these boosters loaded with prop goes boom, it's going to be knocking windows a couple of miles away. It's no small thing for a booster to be lost during this kind of event, and luckily they've not had that. I think the worst we've had with the booster, correct me if I'm wrong, is the Spin Prime, which went kind of fiery. Was it Booster 7?
Yep, that was Booster 7.
Yeah.
The whole reason why they have the DSS now.
Yeah, that was very dynamic, and that was just a Spin Prime test being ignited. So can you imagine what a booster going Rud would be like? So that's why it's good that they've got this down to a T, and it's expected that some people can always get nervous. And you should about any rocket. There's no rocket out there which has not got the potential to have a bad day. So this is something we're going to see. We will see this, by the way. We will see starships in the future, in years to come. We'll see the occasional one go wrong. We will do. It's just the way rockets are. There's no completely safe and completely unavoidable incident with a rocket. These are complex systems full of energy. So you will have that. And I'm sure people in this kind of YouTube community and our community will appreciate that's something. But the likes of the wider public may need reminding of that when that does happen.
Yeah, I think that was also a bit of the expectation setting that people didn't do right for the last flight, because they always expected like a step bigger and everything goes well and they just get further. And the last flight was the first time that I feel like people had just a bit of a miscalculated expectation of the flight, and they're like, oh, they're gonna go for the catch again, it's gonna be great. And well, that's not how rocket works all the time, and the booster doesn't care about the expectation.
You know what encouraged me the most about that divert? was the fact that Elon was there with the president-elect and all the people with him as well. And you're thinking Elon will want to be impressing these people, and to us, the launch is impressive as it is. The hot stage is impressive, and the events that we saw were impressive. But you could, in the back of your mind, think he might override any kind of like small configuration issue that, especially we know that they could have brought the booster back probably safely, but they still diverted. They didn't try and show off or push the boundaries just because they have VIPs there. And I just found that encouraging. I've seen it from Elon before. Elon comes across in a certain way on X. We've seen, he's quite jovial and, and very in your face kind of thing almost some of the times, to put it mildly. But ahead of the Bob and Doug flight, you saw a different side of Elon. Elon was completely game face. He looked nervous. He looked, like he was completely focused in on this. There was no like memes or anything like that. He knew it was a crewed flight. And Elon has that, and I think that's important, that Elon will put the rocket first. He won't put anything like a VIP guest first for a catch to see it. I mean, there'll be plenty of opportunities to see a catch anyway in the future. So I like that. I like that the rocket comes first. The team comes first. What they decide comes first. And we saw that in action during Flight 6.
Yeah, I feel it. I agree with you. There will be, honestly, we will be at the point where people talk about catches like they talk about Falcon 9 landings right now. They're like, oh, they just did another catch. Who cares? And enjoy while that is not the case. And then we will talk probably about Starship 2 doing even crazier thing in the next generation Boca Chica, wherever that might be. That's the distant future from now. So, yeah, totally exciting times here. And they just completed the static fire of one of two stages for the next flight of Starship, which lines up to be probably somewhere around the new year. So they're getting there. And of course, that has the V2 with it. So, Alex, do you mind giving us a quick overview? Like, what changes on the next flight? Why is the next flight so interesting?
Yeah, that ship will be the first of the Block 2, version 2, or whatever name you want to put on it, right? This upgraded version of the ship is a little bit taller. It's just one ring taller, about 1.8 meters taller, so about 53 meters or so, right? But one of the big, so there's probably like two big changes, right? Not just the name and that it is a little bit taller, but one of the big changes is that it has a lot more propellant capacity now. It can hold 300 more tons of propellant, and that is because they have shrunken a little bit the barrel section for the payload bay. Now instead it sort of sticks up into the nose cone area, right? And that way they can gain a little bit more of tank volume, right? So that's what they did. And with that, they are hopeful to be able to get 100 tons to low Earth orbit, which was the original goal of Starship. But, usual mass creep, right? You get a lot of dry mass from improvements and repairs and, retrofits and whatnot. So hopefully with Block 2, they are able to go through that and be able to, get 100 tons to low Earth orbit proper. Block 2 also has a different set of forward flaps, right? Those forward flaps are now more leeward. They are smaller as well. So now the plasma is not encountering the hinge area, so to speak. When they re-enter that ship, it will not have the plasma impinging on that area, which was quite a problem on the last three flights, on flight 4, 5, and 6. But hopefully that will not be the case on flight 7. That'll be the proof of fire, I guess, right? Flight 7 will be that. So one of the important things will be to be able to test that re-entry to be sure that the new version, the new block system will be able to go through that re-entry. It has improved heat shield tiles as well, improved mechanisms to hold them in place as well. So hopefully all of that gets proven on Flight 7. It has many other changes as well. We'll go in detail on that on a future video we're preparing, but we're on a live stream right now. If I went through that right now, you you will not have a video to watch. No, but it's also too long as well to explain it. So that's why we're doing a dedicated video for that.
Absolutely. And I believe we have some replays here. Starting with a North Beach angle. So we are already in replays here. Thanks, Jay, for getting these up so quickly. You can see the deluge firing here, and you can see the two flashes on this camera, by the way. You can see the first, and there's the first ignition, and boom, there's the second.
Yeah, and by this time, there's already 28 engines ignited. So when the last 5 ignites, it's not a huge change, right? When you have 13 and then you go from 13 to 28, that's a big change. But from 28 to 33, it's not a huge change. You also have the
this
vapor.
is gonna be cool.
Look at that.
Yeah, that's 1, 2. Oh, that's the 3. You can see the third flash. But that's beautiful. Look at that.
You can see how it turns into vapor and now whoop, shuts down in the deluge. It's not that it comes back, it's just that there's not that pressure of the engines impinging on the deluge water.
That was apparently 9 seconds. 9 to 10 seconds. Look at that. It's a long duration test.
Far away distance. Look at that. All of the
from the hotel.
vapor.
Yeah, that vapor is already like 200, 300 meters out right now. That's kind of crazy how fast that cloud pushes. And there's the next. Wow. This is a long static fire. Like 9 to 10 seconds is on the longer duration of these test fires. So yeah, maybe something they want to validate. I'm rolling the theory of potential new engine update here into the room again. Just saying.
How long have we got till the ISS stream? I'm just wondering.
We'll about 10 minutes.
Oh, good. It's worked out. It's worked out lovely.
Yeah, we are. That's why we already show you these replays, because there's something very special coming up that we will talk about just after we finish these replays thoroughly, I think. But it's certainly something that I never thought we would do as NSF. Look at that. Second tower next to it, always cool. And that crane is now full of dust. So, didn't we have like a ship that got completely industed because it was next to the mid bay when it was demolished?
Yeah, that was ship 29 with a little flap that could.
The little flap that could indeed. That camera is like wondering when the dust cloud will stop approaching it.
I need to ask Jack if they bill him the call to the ISS. Long distance
Per
call.
distance? Yeah. That shot earlier looked like the clouds in Dune where the worms come out.
Look at that. That's from the second pad.
Wow.
I think you'll
Who
find
parked
people.
their car?
I think you'll find people in chat actually asking when Jack is actually going to the ISS.
We will need $50 million, right, for that.
Yeah.
So
Let's start the fundraising now.
We will get there when we get there. I heard he's game though. I heard he said he would do it.
Oh, it's Jackie. Of course he's game. The only thing he's not game for is kilts, but everything else he's game for.
Historical marker, by the way.
It's definitely historic.
Apparently, the next shot we tried to get the engines and it didn't work out quite as we planned, but next time. So just let's be prepared.
Yeah,
there.
Here.
It was a bit too dark potentially.
Well, it'll light up soon.
Look at that. There comes the deluge now in a bit. Any second?
It takes about 25 seconds from DSS starting to the test. There we go.
There it is. Hello, water.
then
And
there's the
engines.
fire. 1 and 2.
Second.
Ooh, that's nice.
Yep. It's Inferno.
Look at that.
And shutdown.
I think this is played 2-speed. There you go. I
That
don't know
was
if
cool.
Maybe Jay can correct me on that.
That was cool.
Yeah, everyone in chat's saying the same thing. I was wondering as well. I don't know if we covered it. I'm sure if I didn't, I was a bit diverted by something else. Do we think it's longer than normal? The firing?
It seemed a bit longer, yes.
Yeah.
I've seen in the past some of these longer tests. I think that they might be doing that, when they want to get a few more seconds out of them. They did a spin prime test too, so maybe they're wanting to fully make sure that whatever changes they have introduced, they are properly tested. Might be that.
Or it could be just the way we see things and the visibility of it, and that can sometimes play tricks on the mind. We've got a chart's completely all over the place. 6 to 7 seconds normal. They've got one saying 10 seconds. You never know.
That's like thanks internet.
Yeah, but it's the cool thing is we'll expect some nice drone shot photographs and videos from SpaceX later. So there'll be something. We'll get another indication of how long it was. We can time it from probably their views. We got different angles of it, etc. But either ways, it's worked out very well. And soon we've got a trip to the ISS. NSF is going to talk live to the ISS very shortly.
Yeah, absolutely, and that's why I will start to thank people here, starting with Chris Bergen for being on today here.
Yeah. Oh, there you go. Yes, I was indeed. Yes, and we might do an Raptor side tomorrow at 2 p.m. Central Time. So if you're in SBL Starbase Live, we'll be going doing an hour chat, taking more questions. If you missed a question being answered here, we could do it tomorrow at the Raptor side, 2 p.m.
There we go. If you want more about the static fire today, tune in to that. Next up to thank is certainly Alex. Alex, thanks for sharing knowledge and getting it to the 1 minute.
It's mostly just looking at previous testing and be like, oh, it takes about this time to do this and whatnot. And so, but yeah, it takes a bit to also keep track of all of this, to be fair, with so much testing. And hopefully we get that Chip 33 engine test soon. I hope we may go live with that as well. We'll see, right? And
We'll
definitely
attempt.
Definitely also the flyover tomorrow. We'll see, that as well.
Absolutely.
Many things we spotted.
And behind the scenes, we had Gage, we had Jay, and I think we had Neat Pizza working. Chris, did you ever think that we would do an outro to throw to an NSF live interview with the ISS?
No.
Because we are doing that right now.
I know we are, yeah.
So, for the people who have missed it, we will throw you now to the very special episode of NSF Live. We will spam it in chat. If mods, can we spam that in chat like crazy? So everybody goes over there. Thank you. Because we were doing a very special NSF Live featuring a NASA astronaut and astrophotographer Don Petit joining us from the International Space Station. So our photographers, Jack, D, and Max, will talk with him right from the ISS, talk about astrophotography. So it's a live interview from space. And that's why we are ending early here today, because we want to make sure you can all check that out. So thanks for watching today. My name is Adrian Bile. I was also on today's stream. And with that, let's call in to the ISS.
And here we go.
We have liftoff. Propulsion continues to be normal.
RCPA chamber pressure looks good.
Rolling up. Roger, planet. Water towers fly! Yes!
Tango down to nominal.
Flight downside SPD off. Say again, SPD off. It's orange! 145! Oh my god! Oh my god! Decollage! Put that in the big bag, Eagle.
343 unfolds to go.
Indeed.
We rise together back to the moon and beyond.
If the methane will be igniting in the flare, correct?
Yikes. You good? We don't need any more of these.